Whoa, okay. Alright, so we're back. So since Semester 3 over here was asking about fallacies, I'll speak about that next. So this is Module 5, Critical Thinking and Logical Fallacies. And then this one, I mean, like I said before, there's like hundreds of fallacies out there. I mean, so this one just goes into 12 different ones. So ad hominem fallacy, to the man. That one I already explained to you guys. Appeal to ignorance, association fallacy, relationship implies causation fallacy. The straw man, the straw person fallacy. The fallacy. Appeal to definition, non sequitur. Don't know how to pronounce that. What should I say? I'll just say it with confidence, non sequitur. And then we're good. Equivocation, how do you say that?
Equivocation?
I'll say it in Spanish. Equivocación. There we go. Special pleading and denying the antecedent fallacy, and then affirming the consequent fallacy. So, start explaining this to you guys. Like I said, I personally, this was probably one of my favorite modules, not only because Mr. Sears made it nice and short for us, but also because it was pretty interesting. Just learning about the different fallacies and kind of seeing where people make these arguments and being able to just call them out, like I said. I have no problem calling people out on their fallacies now. And don't get me wrong, this is like one of the big things with fallacies. Like I was explaining before, just because someone uses a fallacy doesn't mean that the argument they're making is not true, or that their conclusion is not true. It's just saying that it doesn't really coincide with the argument, like it does nothing for the argument, besides kind of gear you in the wrong direction. With that being said, I was going to say something else too. It's not wrong, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll continue on because it'll come to me, hopefully. Ad hominem fallacy, that's to the man. I had already explained that previously. That's basically when you attack the person that's saying instead of the argument itself. I'm not going to get into too much detail. Just go watch my other video, okay? And then appeal to ignorance fallacy. So if someone says, okay, we'll just say like, since you can't claim that there, I don't want to play with religion here too much. So we'll say, since you can't claim that there are no Plutonians living in Pluto, but how can you prove it? This is two people talking. Since you can't prove that they're not there, I say that they're there. Thus, there are Plutonians on Pluto. Well, just because there's no proof, that they're not there, it doesn't mean that they are there. So, therefore, it's appeal to ignorance. And I've came up with my own examples in the back here. So, let me see what I had put for this one. So I had put, what is Mary's favorite food? Asked Bob. I don't know, admitted John. It is pizza, exclaimed Bob. John argued. She never said it was. Bob replied, well, she never said it wasn't, so it must be right. So, again, just because she never said that it wasn't doesn't mean that it is. I mean, it could very well be that her favorite food is pizza. We don't know. But it's not because she didn't say that it was. So, not enough. It's not saying that the argument, it's not saying that the conclusion is wrong. And I think that's what I was getting at before. That doesn't mean that the conclusion is false or anything just because a fallacy was used to prove it. Sometimes people will use the fallacies and don't really realize that they're using them. But that doesn't always mean that the conclusion is false. And again, the fallacy may not necessarily be false itself, but the conclusion doesn't mean that is false either. So it's just more like, like in this example, maybe her favorite food was pizza, but we're not going to believe that just because of that argument. We need a better argument to accept that kind of thing. And I know it's very simple, and it's just like, well, why do you care kind of thing, but it's just kind of a slight example here. So the association fallacy. So, let's see. So example here is, Hitler was an evil, sick, and bad person. He was also a vegetarian. That's why I don't like or trust anyone who claims that they're vegetarian. Milo doesn't eat meat, so I don't trust him at all. He's a bad person. So again, you're associating one thing to another. Just because, these are just examples. Just because Hitler, was this evil and bad person, and he was a vegetarian, doesn't mean that every person that is a vegetarian is, a bad person, or vice versa, that every bad person is vegetarian. I did association fallacy. One should study with Mary because all her friends get good grades, and therefore she must be smart too. So just because just because Mary's friends are smart and they get good grades, and doesn't mean that Mary is smart also, and she also gets good grades. It could very well be that Mary is smart and gets good grades, but saying that because her friends are smart and they get good grades is not a good argument to support that, that conclusion. So, like I said, it's just more like thinking, like, should I accept this conclusion because of the reasons that they're giving me? And then, relationship implies causation fallacy. So, I almost feel like this is, like, when I read this kind of goes to me with, like, association fallacy. And I'll read off the example, and then I'll do my example as well. So, hey, if you want a lot of money, you should break your leg. And then the person responds, why? What's your argument for that? And then another person responds, try slamming it in a car door. I did it, and the next day I won the state lottery. Who would have thought that breaking your leg would cause you to win the lottery? Wow, but it works. I know from direct personal experience. You cannot deny it. So, to me, it's like kind of associating one thing to another. Just because you broke your leg and now you win the lottery doesn't mean that every time someone breaks their leg, they're going to win the lottery kind of thing. And people do this all the time, especially research. A lot of research papers, because they're trying to have you accept a conclusion kind of thing. So with things like that, they do a lot of things like, okay, well, this, like, group A did so this, and this, and these were the results. Well, that doesn't mean that every time, that someone does that, the results are going to be the same. Like, I can say, true story, by the way, like, I was going to the gym, and man, I was, like, working my ass off. I was, like, sweating, going, like, the whole, like, 10 miles, like, eating healthy, going to the gym I was working out in the morning and working out in the afternoon. I swear, I could not I wasn't gaining weight, but I wasn't losing weight. I was just, like, stuck at a wall. And then, I was just like, screw this. I started eating like a pig. And then, I kid you not, I lost like 6 pounds. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? So, I'm not going to go around and say fallacious arguments like, hey, stop working out and stop trying this and go pig out. You'll lose 6 pounds, because that's not a good argument. Like, it's fallacious, because people shouldn't, you're associating one thing to another. Maybe a lot of things weren't taken into consideration. Like maybe I was drinking more water, maybe I was under more stress, like maybe I was on a medication, like all these other things that aren't really talked about, that aren't really taken in consideration, are kind of left in there. So you shouldn't, just accept, one thing because of another, kind of thing. And then here's like another one. I went to bed early last night and did not study for my test. I did better on this test than any other test. Therefore, I'm 100% sure that sleep is better than studying. And you see studies that are like this, but they're like 100% sure and things like that. And it's just like, okay, that was like one instance. Like, was the test easier? Like, did you already know this information? Like, all these things aren't like really talked about. So the argument itself is fallacious. So we can't deny that he did better on this test. That's a fact. You can see it, it's black and white. He did 84, whatever, and then he got 100%. You can't deny that fact that he did better, but we can choose to not accept his reasoning of why he did better, kind of thing. And then we have the straw man or straw person. So this fallacy is about a person giving the impression of arguing against an opponent, but arguing something that his or her opponent would never say. For example, so people who think abortion should be banned have no respect for the rights of women. They treat them as nothing but baby-making machines. That's wrong. Women must have the right to choose. So that's a straw man person argument. But the people's actual attitudes are anti-abortionists would never argue that women are baby-making machines without the right to choose. So you're kind of like going like the 10 extra miles above, what a person is saying. Like, the person would never even say that, and now, you're making an argument for something people never even said. Another one is like the person's actual thoughts. So most people who believe abortion should be legalized are against cold-blooded murder. And then the straw man argument for that would be people in favor of abortion think it's perfectly fine to commit cold-blooded murder, but people who are for abortion, they don't actually believe that it's okay to commit cold-blooded murder, and it's just like you're almost like arguing with something that's not even there. You're just kind of making up your own argument, kind of thing. And then my example for that is people who voted for Hillary Clinton are all feminists who think men are worthless. Worthless leaders and world should be ran by women. So of course, not all people that voted for Hillary have those beliefs. May have those thoughts. Some, those thoughts may never even exist. So they may exist in some people. We don't know. But just basically picking, one straw out of like the whole haystack, basically, and saying I'm gonna argue that kind of thing. So. And then we have appeal to definition. So people always do this on the internet. We see it all the time when they're arguing. And this is not when I'm saying like arguing. This is like confrontational arguing when I'm talking it in this sense. So they go back to the dictionary definition, and they're like, and it's fun. It's fun to like just watch people on the internet and see all these fallacies occurring. But they go to the dictionary definition, and then like they think it's just gonna resolve all the issues with any argument. It's just like two people are arguing like, is gay marriage okay or not? And then someone goes into freaking Webster's dictionary or whatever, and it's like, here it says marriage is like a union between a man and a woman, and then they're like, bam, and that's not. Therefore, the argument is over, and it's just like, if dictionaries could solve all our arguments and all our problems, the world would be a lot different than it is now. You have to keep into consideration that people are putting these definitions onto paper. And as time goes on, things that are controversial like that, they try to be more and more broad now. Dictionaries are like, changing and evolving to kind of as these things come along. But you can't just solve, one argument just based on a dictionary definition. And also because you go to different dictionaries and they're going to all say different things. So, people think, oh, bam, here's a definition of it, and they do the whole screenshot thing and they post it and like, bam, there you go, there's your proof, like, and they think like they're walking out like they're the shit, like that's not even a good argument, like you've said nothing to me, like, okay, great, you can use freaking Google, good for you. Like, so people, you do that all the time. And then non sequitur, so when the conclusion does not follow premises. So it's basically when people are saying, like if you're talking about, oh, okay, everyone in Hawaii loves to walk on the beach, the beaches in Hawaii have sand, so therefore all the houses in Hawaii should have sand as their floors. Well, no, not necessarily. And it's just like you're making a big jump from, A, B, and then all of a sudden you're going like all the way to like Z. Or I shouldn't say Z because some of you guys may think I'm saying C, but like to all the way to freaking Y. And it's just like you made a huge jump there, like, no. And then kind of give another definition for that. So kids are smart. So mine, the one I kind of associated with. So kids are smart. Kids make a lot of rational decisions. So kids should be able to consent. Well, okay, kids are smart. We can agree that. Kids make a lot of rational decisions, sure, but just there's a certain extent to that. So just because of that, those two little things doesn't mean we have to make a huge jump and saying that kids should be able to consent, and whether it be to like operations or agreements, bank stuff, or even like sexual consent or anything like that. So again, huge jump there. And then special pleading. This fallacy is about applying standards or rules to other people or circumstances while making yourself or someone else exempt, especially without providing adequate justifications. So we see this all the time, like, yeah, of course I believe that people should follow the rules and they shouldn't be late and everything. However, I was, I had to drop off my kids at school and I was stuck in traffic and, all this stuff. So you're just like, it's like, that's what it is, special pleading. You feel like, there's no special justification. Like you're agreeing, like, yes, yes, everyone should follow these rules. However, I did it, and now, because of, whatever circumstances it was, now, all of a sudden, it doesn't, you're still saying that it applies to everyone, but realistically, you're not really saying that, because now you're saying, well, my circumstances were different, kind of thing.
Yeah, you see that one a lot.
Yeah, you definitely see that one all the time. So, you have any questions on it?
No, you've explained things pretty good. if I were to think of something, I'd say out of.
I know. I'm doing such a great job explaining everything. But for Mr. Sears' purposes, I need you to ask me a question.
Okay. Out of all these fallacies, which one would you say is the easiest to spot in an argument?
I mean, I had already kind of touched on that, but like, I mean, some of these, these are all like very obvious,
Okay.
like these are all like very obvious like examples. It's just kind of to like do the basics, but it's sometimes when you're reading like even newspaper articles or like you know, bigger papers, and you're trying to really understand, or you're having like a speaker or something, doing, presenting these arguments, or if you're watching like, your political candidates or all these things, they may be doing all these fallacies, and it's just like they may make sense, and you're not really catching on to it. And it may be, a fallacy to the man. It may be, authority one, but you don't really quite realize it. Okay, I feel like, it depends how tactical they are with these things. Like, someone may totally, make it very obvious. Another person may make, it more, difficult, just the way that they form their argument, and the way they state things, and the way they say it. And they, people use these fallacies all the time, and we may not catch on to them all the time, but they're there. Obviously, there's some that people continuously use. Like I said, like some of the examples, like, the dictionary one, people always, reference back to the dictionary, which there's no point in that. And the authority one, just because you always hear those words, well, I'm the mom, I'm the bigger sister, I'm the boss, things like that. And it's just more that they're just like more commonly used, and like very like plain, easy to see, this is what it is kind of thing. But I don't feel like one is easier to spot over another, just because one's, they're in an actual like scholarly argument and all this stuff.
Okay.
That they can be a lot harder to spot than this.
Alright. Appreciate that. Thank you for explaining fallacies to me. I now know something that I didn't know before.
Oh gosh.
The more you know.
Oh gosh. Alright, so do you want to do ambiguity next?
Sure, we can do ambiguity.
Okay, so let me see. I think ambiguity was module 7. So I don't have my actual module since we haven't gotten the packet yet. So I have to go in through my email really quickly here and kind of pick some stuff out here, and then we'll come back to it.